everyone, welcome to the Jiu Jitsu podcast. My name is Stacy, I am a Jiu Jitsu and this is my podcast. In today's episode, you are going to hear the amazing conversation that I had with my friend and training partner, Kulsoom Hussein. Kulsoom is a mom. She trains Jiu Jitsu with her kids, and she's been training for about 2 years at the time of the interview. And in this interview, you're going to hear us talking about a wide range of topics, but mostly centered on Kulsoom, her identity as a mom, her identity as a woman, a jiu-jitera, and also just what it's like to be a beginner, what it's like to then gain some experience, and then also be responsible for the beginners that come after you. So we do talk a lot about that. You'll hear a lot of jiu-jitsu philosophy and our mindset and how we all came together because of jiu-jitsu. And I cannot wait for you to hear this interview. So without further ado, here is my interview with Kulsoom. All right, I'm back. We have my friend and training partner, Kulsoom.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Can you introduce yourself, please, for the listeners?
Okay, so my name is Kulsoom. I started Gracie Braha about 2 years ago. I did take a break in between, but I've been going since then. I also have 3 kids who are also going to Gracie Braha. They started first, and then eventually I joined because I was very curious, and I just kind of wanted to see from a self-defense perspective how it would work for women. Initially when I joined, I didn't know anyone there like women. Like I didn't see anyone training there, but I figured I would try. So initially I was actually interested in doing kickboxing, and Gracie Barra at that time was offering kickboxing. So I was only taking those classes in Naperville. And then I met a friend there who was also a female. Her name was Allie, and we were taking kickboxing classes on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. And then eventually I started coming to the women's classes on Thursday. And I also met Stacy in one of the morning classes, and she was like the sweetest person, not being biased just because she's sitting in front of me. But it was honestly... She walked in, she had a smile. I was so nervous. The moves were like a bit intimidating because, you know, you're not really used to...
Yeah, it is really awkward.
Right. Touching and being so close.
Yeah, you're like right up in someone's business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially if you've never taken karate or any of those classes that require you to be so close to someone. It was very intimidating. But she walked in, she had a smile, she was very nice, and even the way she was... describing the moves, it was very nice. It just kind of made my day easier for me to come to class. So every time I would try to come, I think it was the 9 a.m. classes.
Yeah, 9 a.m. I think.
Morning classes that I would come.
Yeah, because like you're a busy mom with kids.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
So at that time, the morning classes were working, so I would come in hoping Stacy would be there, and made all the difference, honestly. Especially when you're coming in to any new activities of sports, and especially for self-defense purpose, it's nice to have someone who's very inviting. And you were very inviting, and ever since then, I've decided to join, and then I started taking more classes other than the Thursday classes, and then I got more comfortable, and then of course I met other people as well. So since then, it's been, I guess you can say, about 2 years. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we all have periods where maybe we don't train as much, or you know, life stuff happens, we have to pause for a while, you know, but the thing is like jiu-jitsu is always here for you, you know, and that's something that I also, you know, because there were times when I was struggling with things that I didn't train for like maybe a couple of months or whatever, and then, you know, like I guess mentally I got to the point where I was just like, oh, maybe I should just stop, and then I was like, what am I saying? No, I'm not gonna stop. Just come back, whatever. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing I like about it, because like you were saying, there's times where things get in the way, personal things going on, either stressful or, you know, you need to take a break, but then there's times where those things do happen. And for me personally, when I have something going on in my life personally, I'm more inclined to come to classes just because it kind of takes the mind off, right? For that one moment. And even after the class, the endorphins rush, right? You feel all like, no matter how crappy your day is or week is, whatever, after class, I just feel relieved and less stressed, and then I'm able to like kind of contemplate and just kind of get on with my day the next day, just because I was able to train. Even if I got submitted like 10 times that night, that evening class or morning class and stuff, it still was like, oh, it's so worth it to come and leave,
Yeah.
And so I would really encourage like anyone I talk to to come to jiu-jitsu, or whatever other activities that would help you in that regards.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, because well, okay, so just to clarify, at the time of recording this is May 2023, but season 2 is not coming out until the fall.
Okay.
So in real life, I had just finished the second episode with Dave Green.
Okay.
Right? In podcast life, it's going to be several more episodes in between here.
Really? Okay.
So referencing what I had just talked about with Dave Green just last week, we were saying how, like, activities, like we were talking about like fitness cross-training, like not jiu-jitsu cross-training, which is a different thing. This is fitness cross-training, how that can not only benefit your jiu-jitsu, but also, like, I was talking about how, I'm a runner too. Like, I like to go for runs just to sometimes clear my head.
Yeah.
And I like to, sometimes my mind is too busy that I can't concentrate in jiu-jitsu, but then sometimes it's better to be able to concentrate in jiu-jitsu because it gives me something different to focus on.
Right.
Just like exactly like you were saying.
Right, exactly. In that regards. I also started running recently and stuff just because jiu-jitsu was one of those, like, I always come to jiu-jitsu for training, but it's nice to have that break and do running. But I feel like it goes hand in hand. Like, it does. Especially when you're training, I started doing those 30 minutes training after classes and stuff. Yeah. And endurance build up. It's a big thing. And so running and doing even cross training and weightlifting goes a long way for me. So I do incorporate all of those, but I feel like it all ties in together, and it helps. My running is helped by jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is helped by my running. Weightlifting obviously also helps with running, and 100%. My jiu-jitsu classes.
Definitely. And I love that you mentioned those 3 things, because those are the 3 things that I also do.
Right.
I do running, weightlifting, and jiu-jitsu.
I remember going to when Professor Dada was coming and stuff, and how I went with you guys. And then a few times that I went, and Stacy, you're like, I've been watching your videos and how you keep going in weights. Honestly, like, you're a model in that regard, I don't know how you do it every day. You go to class and then you go weightlift and stuff.
Well, and just full disclosure, in the last, like, 5 to 6 weeks, that hasn't really been the case, but I was really trying hard to do that throughout after she left, because in the beginning, like, because I looked up to her so much. Yeah. And I was like, here's a woman with my body type who's excelling at jiu-jitsu, who's excelling at weightlifting. Oh my God, she's so strong. Right. She's so strong.
She is very
She's
strong.
so strong. Yeah. And I was like, I want to be strong like her. Right. I basically want to be like her, so I looked up to her a lot. Right. And then after she left, I was like, well, I have to keep the momentum going, number 1, because I liked it, but also number 2, I was like, I want to make her proud of me.
Seriously.
I didn't want to let her down.
Right, I know. I mean, I watch Professor Dada's even Instagram videos and stuff, and all the competitions, and it's not necessarily that she's always getting gold, but it's just the idea, like, she'll compete, and then you'll see her compete again. Yeah. And stuff. And she rarely posts, like, if she won or what medal she got. And most of the times I have no idea what she's saying, but I assume the fact that she keeps competing is the fact that she's getting stronger and stuff. And I think there was one video where she was working with her mom as well, and it kind of reminded me of how, like, even in Gracie Bar, like, all the ladies and stuff are very, like, kind in that regard. So, like, they're always lifting each other up. Coach Nene, Coach Marissa and stuff, every time I even do all the evening classes, the women classes and stuff, they're always encouraging all the girls, trying to teach them techniques. They'll go out of the way to fix it. You're always, every time in class, you're so patient. I remember, like, I'll be so slow, like, how do I do this? And you're like, go do this, and you're very patient, and you can just, like, take me down, but it's nice to have that.
Like, what would be the point of that, though? Right. Like, oh my God. Okay, so I'm planning a whole season 3 about reflections on jiu-jitsu, and that's one of the things. It's like kind of the philosophy or like my mindset of like, yeah, maybe I could do that, but like, what would be the point of that though?
Right.
You know, at
Right.
least for me, I don't see a point in that. Like,
Right.
what's the point of deliberately trying to like beat somebody that you obviously know you can beat? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
But anyway, sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, I agree, because honestly, the few classes that I've taken in the evening, there were some girls that came, and they were younger. They were like, one was 12, one was 14. I'm not gonna say names, but you can just tell, like, okay, they're younger, they're new, they're white belts and stuff. And I remember being in that position and being totally intimidated, coming up to someone who's purple belt or even 3 stripes up, and you have no stripes and you have no idea what you're doing. And if someone came, like, if I had met you and you just came up to me and you submitted me and you choked me like 3 times, what
kind of experience does that leave for you?
Exactly. I'm gonna walk out, and like a month from now, I'm probably not gonna come back.
Exactly. And like, that's not what we want.
Exactly.
Like, that's not what I want. That's not what we as a community want.
Right.
We want to grow our community of women. We want to show everybody that jiu-jitsu is for everyone.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu is ideal, in my opinion, for women's self-defense.
Right.
Like, jiu-jitsu is for everybody and everybody.
Right.
You know, children, that's, you know, I talked to Coach Vince, like, jiu-jitsu for children. I talked to Denise, jiu-jitsu for, like, older, like, quote-unquote, older adults.
Yes.
Like, you know,
Right.
talking to even Coach Dave, like, jiu-jitsu for all types of people can be, you know.
Right.
So, and that's another thing about the philosophy, too, is, like, it doesn't make sense to me to, like, show off in that way, or to, like, show up somebody, or to, like, you know, whatever, like, assert my dominance or whatever. Or, like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Because if my job as, like, a I guess senior or higher belt is my job, I see it as, is to help grow the community and to nurture my training partners. You are my training partner.
Yeah.
I want you to stick around.
Right. Exactly.
You know, I want you to grow and become more skilled so that we can grow together. Like,
right.
I just never have understood what people try to, like. That's another thing too. Is like, that's another episode I'm planning later. Is like, is like, kill, like, I'm calling it kill the smash and pass. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Why do people do this anyway?
Yeah. No, I agree, honestly, and stuff. Killing the ego, if anything, and stuff, for people who come with that mindset. And especially for ladies, I feel like, I mean, for me, when I came in, I wasn't coming to compete. I was just very honestly curious, because once my kids were taking it, it's just, you're looking at it, it looks really cool. And then also from just a self-defense, like, just to be honest, especially for women, right? And if you get to the point where, like, someone is trying to attack you or come at you or harassing you or whatever it is, it at least gives you confidence to at least try to not fight for it, but defend yourself, not be so helpless.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm gonna go on the street and someone comes to attack me and I'm just gonna keep attacking them. But if I can at least have a fighting chance to get away and stuff and everything in a real life situation, or my daughter's in a situation like that, she can at least say, hey, I tried, I fought back, I got away, right? At the end of it, that's all you can, like, especially for women and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, that's where I'm coming from. I know a lot of, and a few of the female friends and stuff that are coming, they're coming in from a competition standpoint. They come, they want to learn, and they want to compete. Like, everyone comes from a different standpoint.
Yeah, we do.
I'm coming as a mother with 3 kids and stuff, also having a girl myself, and I know, like, how it could be, and so for me, it's that. But I know another mother, she also has 3 kids that are in there. She was also curious, but she also wants to be able to relate to her kids, and she has younger kids. So it's like her mindset's different, my mindset's different, and I have other friends whose mindsets are different. But it's nice to know that Jiu Jitsu provides that for all of them, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of like the great equalizer. Like, you know, we all come in from different walks of life and different circumstances, and, like, you know, like I feel like, I was just thinking about this earlier today, actually, this morning, that I really think that I'm probably one of the only ladies of, like, my age bracket, or, like, our age group, who doesn't have children.
Okay.
You know, like, most of the ladies, like, the adult ladies, obviously we have, like, young ladies who are, like, in their early 20s, like, they don't have kids. Yeah. But, I mean, if they did, whatever, it's fine. But, like, you know, but, like, I'm in my 30s now,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of the ladies who are in their 30s or around that area, they all have kids, but I
Right.
don't. But we can all still relate to each other.
Right, exactly,
You know?
and stuff. Honestly, I would consider you're my close friend. I have another friend who's also in her 30s. I'm not going to say her name. She also doesn't have kids. And she's also not married. But she travels, she goes, and she still comes and competes. And I'm friends with her, like, to the point, like, I hang out with you outside of Jiu Jitsu. I hang out with her outside of Jiu Jitsu. So honestly, it doesn't matter background life, but it's nice to know. It's nice to sit down with you and know your life and your backstory and why you came in. It's nice to know to sit with her and know her life story, knowing, we're in the same age range and everything, but still, it's nice that we can at least connect in this, but then also kind of go beyond that, you know, just to get to know each other and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you know, I guess it's just nice to have, you know, have you on the podcast, because not only are you my friend and my training partner, but also, like, you're a mom, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of women out there maybe who are hesitant about trying jiu-jitsu because they're like, well, I'm a really busy mom, like, I've got, you know, this number of kids, like, I've got this and that and the other, and it's like, well, you know, that's a lot, but at the same time, you know, it's hearing from a mom's perspective, like, you started because your kids had started first. You know, and didn't you say your friend, her kids were doing it and she wanted to relate to her kids?
I don't know if I can say her name or she's going to kill me, but...
you don't have to say her name.
Okay,
like, no, don't say names.
Okay,
like, we want to protect people's privacy.
Okay,
you know?
But I was just talking to her the other day and stuff, and I was telling her, I was like, we're always discussing about, like, she takes her kids to different competitions and everything, and she'll talk about how they did this. It's nice for her also to be able to know what they're doing and what they need to work on.
Yeah.
Even though she's only white stripe and whatever it is and stuff, but it's nice to know that she can also roll with her kids. She can help them work on the moves, and she can get them the training they need and stuff, right? And she's still in it. I mean, regardless of what stripe she is, she's still in it.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where, like, I see it, and this was me too. Initially, I was like, I don't care. I'll be white belt for the next 8 years. But then as you get into it, you kind of do start aiming for, like, you know what? It would be nice to have another stripe. It would be nice for me to get 3 stripes so I can start going to these classes, right?
Exactly.
And she's getting to that point too. She's like, I want to go to the GB2 classes. I want to go to the GB3 classes. You kind of start building up your confidence to the point where, like, you do want to go to the higher classes and be able to learn those moves. Even if you don't perfect them on the first day, it's nice to know that you're kind of gaining that confidence. Where initially you were like, I don't care.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And I find that that's kind of just what happens. Like, people come in for various different reasons, all sorts of different reasons. And then, but then as they stick around and as they stay, sometimes, like, the reasons for staying start to shift.
Yes.
You know? So, can you, because this is your episode. This is you talking about whatever you want to talk about for Jiu-Jitsu. Can you kind of talk about, because you already mentioned how you started. You started because of self-defense and, like, your daughter and your kids.
Right.
But, so, now that you've been in for about 2 years now, has your perspective shifted a little bit? Are you sticking around for different reasons, or the same types of reasons, or a mixture of both?
A mixture of both. Like, I'm still here for the self-defense reason. I'm still here for my kids. But then at the same time, I'm here because I do like the classes. And I think it helps just because initially you come from knowing nothing. And I still know nothing. But I kind of know, like, at least I'm able to incorporate the moves. Like, I'm not totally clueless, right? Exactly. Like, I know what a pocket grip is. I know what a collar. I know not to sit there and just lay dead when someone's, like, you know. So it's nice when you start to know the moves and what to do. Like, you're not totally clueless. You do kind of start, like, okay. And especially now I've been taking the higher classes, it's nice to see their perspective from that standpoint too. So I guess the more comfortable you get into it, the more classes you take, the more I feel like, you know, you get encouraged to keep continuing for different reasons, right? So whatever my reasoning was, it has definitely evolved, I guess, in that regards. And then I think, and also my other friend Mahu, I'm not going to say, I see it from her too. So seeing her do it, I'm like, I remember I went through that and now she's going through it. So it honestly eventually just happens. I had another friend who started with me. She's not at Gracie Baja anymore, but she's still training at a different gym. Yeah. And she's gone a whole different level too. And she also has a kid and stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And For me, honestly, like you were saying, a lot of moms will say, I'm too busy, I have kids and stuff. And sometimes I feel like I'm being selfish because, yeah, I have 3 kids, why am I training? But at the same time, in the scheme of things, all my kids are getting to the point where, like, they are, like, my oldest one will be at preteen, teen, per se.
Mm-hmm.
And they're eventually going to have their own life, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's kind of like one of those things I have something to kind of relate to them.
Yeah.
Because as they get older, they kind of becoming distant. They're getting into their own friends, their own life. They're going through things. And I feel like it's one of those things where maybe I'm able to relate to them through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping to keep up with Jiu Jitsu, right? In that regard. So, I mean, I guess it's also a building, connecting moment, right? As they get older. And then eventually, wherever their life goes, I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's other females coming in, then you're making friends through them, you know, all of that, so.
Yeah, and it's jiu-jitsu for life.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it never leaves you.
I know. I can't imagine leaving, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine not doing it. Like, every time I think about it, I was like, yeah, but then what would I do? Like, you feel like this whole, like, gap, and you're like, if you think, like, if I don't do jiu-jitsu, what else am I supposed to do? I mean, there's so many things you can be doing, but just the idea of not training, it just, right?
It's, now that we're in it, it's like, well, what if I quit? It's like, well,
then what do I do?
What do I do?
Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know where to go, where to pick up from here. Yeah, no, I totally agree in that regards.
Well, and I love that you talk about it from a mother's perspective, too. And I love that you said that, because your kids are getting older.
Yeah.
And like you said, like they're going to have kind of their own lives going on. They're going to start having their own friend groups and things like that. They're going to be relying on their parents less and less for the stuff that they used to rely on them for.
Right.
And so... Now, I guess take this with a grain of salt, I guess, because I don't have children. Like, I'm not a parent to human children. But I am a child of human parents. And so I think and I'm also a daughter-in-law of human parents. So I think it's important, from my perspective as the child, I think it's important to see your parents kind of have their own lives. Like, have their own interests and hobbies and be able to do stuff outside of the home that's not necessarily like revolving their own life around yours, and I mean, I don't want to say that as like don't be involved in your kids' lives. That's not what I'm saying, but what I am saying is like, I mean, as much as you can, don't necessarily make your entire life about your children's lives. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Honestly, it does, because eventually, as they start becoming teenagers, and I've spoken to other parents and other people who have kids who are older, in high school, in college now, and they say eventually what happens is that, and we all went through this, like, we were close to our parents, we wanted everything from them, then we became teenagers, and we wanted kind of a distance, and then as you get older, you start trying to figure out what you want to do, what kind of life you want to have, and you kind of have this distance where you're not relying on them, and then the parents, especially like coming from a Indo-Pac culture, parents tend to hover more on their kids, especially when they're getting older, more so because they feel that distance coming on, and then it comes to the point where like those kids eventually in their late 20s and stuff, or early 20s, get married, have their own families, and the parents are still trying to cling on because they never kind of made their own life. They never made their own friends. They never made their own circle. So they're the parents are in their 50s and they don't know what to do with themselves. Their whole life was their kids. And like you said, I'm not trying to say don't be involved with your kids.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that either.
Exactly. But at the same time, start creating your own life so that healthy distance that does happen naturally, right? Where your kids start to make their own life and find their own friends and their own spouse, whatever it is, you're not left, alone.
Yeah,
like,
not left bereft.
Exactly.
Like, you're not just kind of left, looking left and right and being like, well, what do I do now?
What do I do now, right?
Yeah.
You kind of started, say, for instance, you start Jiu Jitsu, you start going to it and stuff. And I remember when I first started, there were some other ladies, they're not there anymore, but they were much older, but they were telling me their kids are much older. They come visit them with their grandkids, and they were coming here to train. And honestly, those ladies weren't coming here to compete per se.
Yeah.
but they were coming here because also, I mean, it was kind of like a social life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It was a form of exit. It was a form of social life for them. And so I honestly encourage for ladies, and I'm sorry if this sounds selfish, but honestly, it's like it comes to the point where your kids will want distance and you'll have to create your own life. And life has to go on, right?
Yeah.
At some point and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to be their mother. Like,
right.
You're always going to be a parent. Like,
and you're
that's
always
never going to
be
change.
there. Yeah.
But, and, like, what I tell my mom, too, because, and, like, my parents, both of them, like, because sometimes, I think sometimes they feel lonely or they feel like, you know, I don't know, like, they maybe they feel a disconnect, and it also probably doesn't help that I live so far away.
Right, yeah.
But I tell them, like, you're still my mom. I still need you. I just need you differently than I used to.
Right.
You know, I'm a 36-year-old woman. I don't need my mom in the exact same way that I did when I was 12.
Right, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But, I mean, I still need you.
Right.
You're my mom.
Yeah.
I'm always going to need you. Like, that's never going to go away. Like, you're always needed and wanted.
Right.
You know, but it's just different now.
Different now. Exactly.
It's just different.
Exactly. And I know for a fact, for my boys, right now, he's in the adult classes now and stuff and everything. And so I take classes with him, and it's come to the point, like, initially when we first started taking the GB1 classes together, he wouldn't even look at me. And that, inside, it was a little hurtful, because this is the kind of kid, not to put him out, I don't think he'll listen to this podcast.
He probably won't.
He probably won't. By the time he will.
But just don't name names.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't name names. Like, protect people's privacy.
Right,
is
exactly.
fine.
And so he wouldn't even look at me. He wouldn't say hi. But at home, he's like, you know, he's like, Mom. He's like the most closest to me. So it's kind of like, at that point, I realized he's shifting. He's getting to the point he's more self-conscious because he has his friends around. He doesn't want to be mama's boy, whatever it is and stuff. And then you start to realize that that's going to start happening.
Yeah.
It is going to, like, as much as you want to avoid it. So I think in that perspective, it's still nice, like, on the way home, we'll ride home. And we'll talk about moves.
Aww.
And we'll practice at home. And I know the other mom who's I'm friends with, she talks about how she rolls with her kids. She has a mat.
Yeah.
And that's something she relates. And I do the same thing with my boys, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to do that. Even for my daughter, who I don't think is 100% into it, but she does it because I do it. And all she wants to do is like, Mama, let's go roll.
Well, because is she your youngest?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think right now, based on what I know of the age range of your kids, she's still looking up to you as, like, the role model, like, the ideal, you know, and she wants to hang out with Mom.
Yeah, exactly. And
you know?
So it's nice to have that. And even though they're going to start changing, they're going to start growing, even privately and stuff, it's nice to know that we can still relate on these things and stuff, because that shift is coming. And as heartbreaking as it is, it's still, like, at least at home, you know, I'll be acknowledged, and we'll have something to talk about. It won't be like, I'm going to my room, I'll see you, like, later, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Because I think, that sort of, like, I don't know, I guess this is getting a little more philosophical in terms of, like, philosophy and, like, parent-child relationships and stuff, too. But, like, I'm glad that you guys have Jiu Jitsu together, that you can, like you said, but you literally just said this, which kind of triggered this in my head. You guys have this to talk about.
Right.
You know, you have this to relate to. You guys can roll together. Right. Either in class or, like, safely at home.
Right.
And I said safely because we don't condone just, like, random, you know, whatever. Like, but anyway, oh my god, that's another topic. But anyway, like, you guys have this thing.
Right.
You know, so that, and you guys can all sort of grow in jiu-jitsu together, you know, because it's a little different than other activities.
Right, exactly.
And, so hopefully it kind of, not to say that, like, teenagers won't have their moments where they just lock themselves in the room and just, like, play, you know, emo music or whatever. Yeah. But like, I mean, hopefully that's not, like, the everyday type of thing. Yeah. You know, like, you guys, you know, can relate to each other.
And I don't, like, from all the other various activities that they do, like basketball, I can't be as involved. I'll be sitting on the sideline cheering. In Jiu Jitsu, I'm on the mats with them. I'm on the mats at home. I'm on the mats in the gym. And then competition-wise, I'm on the sidelines, but I know what to say. Exactly. I know what to do. Yeah. And things we can work on. I know the lingo. I know the vocab, like, what they need to work on. So it's nice, you know, to have that and everything. If that's all we talk about, at least we're talking, right? In that regard. Oh, you know, no matter what they're going through, at least we're able to relate. And who knows, maybe that conversation leads to other conversations.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So, I mean, jiu-jitsu would be one of those activities compared to all the other activities that your kids will be in that you'll be able to relate to, even if you come to class once a week, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm telling you, you'll start once a week. You'll start going like 3 times a week, and you're like, what's going on now? You know?
And then eventually you start wondering how you can fit your life around jiu-jitsu instead of fitting jiu-jitsu into your life.
Exactly. On Sunday, I'm sitting there looking at the schedule. I'm like, okay, if I take this, if I take this, if I take this. I'm like, when did this start happening? You know? Like,
it creeps up on you.
Yeah.
There's no, like, snap moment, you know?
Yeah.
It creeps up on you, and then eventually you realize, finally, when you kind of step back, you're just like, wait a minute.
What just happened?
What just happened?
I was only taking, like, I remember I used to go to one class, women's jiu-jitsu, and there weren't a lot of females coming to the Thursday class, and I remember Coach Nene coming and saying, you know you can take more than one class, and I'm like, well, there's only one women's class. She's like, you can take the other classes. I'm like, oh, okay, I had no idea. And then I started going to the morning class.
Yeah, that's where I am.
I'm like, oh, okay, there's other girls there, but they come at different timings.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And then before you know it was the morning classes, it was the evening classes, and now even to the point where I'm taking back-to-back classes and stuff just to fit the schedule in.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
So.
And that's the thing, too, and that's part of also why, I mean, we're trying to grow the women's community,
Right.
and that's also a big reason of why I wanted to start this podcast in the first place. Number one, because I just like to talk.
Yeah.
And I love jiu-jitsu. I like to talk about jiu-jitsu, but at the same time, it's like, maybe if I can put this out there
Right.
and showcase what jiu-jitsu is like for women, and the fact that, and have all of you ladies come on and like basically just share your story. Like, we all come from different walks of life. Like, some of us have kids, some of us don't. Some of us have, like, some of us are in like the medical profession, some of us are in like office professions, some of us are in different professions. Like, I'm in a teaching profession. Like, it just, some of us don't have, like, some of us are retired. Like, it's just, and some of us are college kids. Like, it's just, we're all from different walks of life, and yet we're still here training together, coming together, and lifting each other up. And, you know, I kind of wanted to reach as many people as I could, even, you know, it doesn't matter, men or women on podcast land, but especially women, like, to kind of speak to them, to be like, you know, if you've been interested, if you've been thinking, oh, I really want to, but, you know, this or that or the other, this doesn't have to be, oh, I want to, but it could be, oh, I want to, and this and that and the other. So, like, you know, yes, I have 3 kids, and I'm busy, and I want to train jiu-jitsu. And I can figure out how to make it work.
Right. Exactly.
You know, like, I mean, I know that we have a privilege of, at our Gracie Baja, we have a wide range of available classes. And I do want to recognize that not every school, not necessarily Gracie Baja School, but like other jiu-jitsu like organizations, not every school has the wide range of class availability as we do. So I do want to acknowledge that. Like, maybe they only offer evening classes, and people are just like, no, I work in the evening, that's never going to work. So I do want to put that out there. But at the same time, like, maybe listening to this can kind of, I don't know, give you hope that, like, okay, maybe I can, you know, find a friend, or, like, maybe I can go on the weekend, or whatever. Like, you know, and it's, you know, it's just, you know, there's more of us out there than you might think. Speaking to podcast land, like, there's more of us out there than you might think. There's a lot more women who train. Maybe we just don't really, we just don't know about each other. Right. You know, so that's part of what I wanted to do, is, like, kind of close the gap and like bring us more in contact with each other and grow the community. You know. I
remember when Gracie Baja offered those self-defense classes, and unfortunately I was only able to come to one, but even coming, like, the 2 women that I was paired up with and stuff, I was just kind of asking about their lifestyle. One was a cop. I think her husband is training with Gracie Baja, and I was trying to encourage her. I'm like, you're here taking self-defense classes, and you pretty much know, and this is your life. Like, you have to deal with people who come at times, close contact and stuff. It would be natural. Like, I wasn't trying to put pressure on her, but I'm like, this would be really helpful for you in that regards. And then the friend she had was just a close friend, but I guess they go walking together, and I'm like, And she was saying if someone ever attacked me, I would just throw her at them. But I'm like, wouldn't you want to be like? I know she was kidding, but I was just saying, I'm like, if she joins, you should join as well, because then you guys have something to work on and stuff together and everything. She's a cop, you're a friend of her and stuff. So it was nice to see, like, even from that background perspective, and I'm still hoping they join.
Me too.
Right? In that area. And a lot of the women who were coming, I don't know who you were working with and stuff, but I was hoping at least majority of those ladies would join.
Yeah.
Right?
I was hoping so too, because doing those self-defense series last month, like, I had the absolute best time.
Right, yeah.
I had so much fun, and I was so excited to see all the different women that came. Yeah. And there were women who came every single week, and I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, yes!
Yes, exactly.
Yes!
I know.
And I was really hoping that, like, they would join, you know, because if they can see the value in what we do and how it can benefit their lives. Right. You know, I was hoping that and because we offer so many different types of classes. Yeah. There's mornings, evenings, weekends, we have a variety. So I'm hoping that they can at least find, you know, 1 or 2 classes a week that fit their schedule. Right, exactly. Because they all really seemed into it.
Exactly. And even when the techniques that we were learning and stuff, just from a self-defense perspective and everything, I thought they were really good. And I think
thought so too.
And the ladies that I was working at, they liked it. They said this seems like real life stuff.
It is real life, yeah.
Exactly. And
practical.
So I'm hoping every time I see even a female who comes during the week just to watch, I'm like secretly hoping that they'll join. Just to see, like, come on, like, you should join. You should come join.
Well, because we know the amazing, like, transformation that it can give to people. Like, we know the benefits. We know what it's like. And we want other people to experience that. Yeah. So we're like, please join!
Yeah, exactly. And I think for sure from Gracie Baja, I can't honestly say before Gracie Baja if I went to any other gyms just to check it out. It was only because of the fact that, you know, my kids were there, so obviously just naturally kind of went and joined Gracie Baja. But even from that perspective alone, if I did go to other gyms, I have to say Gracie Baja has been pretty welcoming, especially for ladies' perspective and everything. Not just because, well, you're Stacy and I met you and I stayed, but even the other coaches and all the other students that come, they've been all very open, very nice. And especially when it comes to training, you know, you're coming with, like, a white belt, no stripes, you have no idea what's going on and stuff, and they'll go easy on you just so you can learn simple basic moves initially, you know. And so I can't honestly say what it's like in the other gyms. I wouldn't have the experience, but just from a Gracie Baja experience, it's been pretty good. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, and, like, there are a lot of times that I'm the only woman in the class, but the guy, just like you were saying, everybody's so welcoming. The guys that I train with are really good. They're just amazing. Yeah. Like, for example, case in point, so I am usually, like, the person who's, like, smiley, giggly, happy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm just kind of like that in real life anyway. Yeah. But I had really bad insomnia last week. I was exhausted. I was walking around like a zombie. Okay. And so, like, on Monday, I went to class. I was like, oh, I'm going to get out of the house. And I don't have the energy for this. I was really subdued. Yeah. I was just kind of there. I wasn't really smiling at anybody. I wasn't talking or saying anything. I was not like myself. Yeah. Every single one of those guys, at one point or the other during the class time, they came up to me and was like, are you all right? Oh. You don't seem like yourself. Right. Is everything okay? Or they would try to, like, you know, kind of like older brother tease a little bit, try to get me to smile, try to crack jokes, you know, that kind of thing. Like, they were all looking out for me. Right. In, you know, in their different ways. Right, exactly. And that really meant a lot. Right. You know, and it kind of made me feel a little bit better about, because I really get self-conscious about my personality. I think we've talked about this like, privately before. And I mean, I get really self-conscious about my personality. I'm very aware of the fact that I can come across as very annoying to people, and, like, I don't want to be annoying to people, but I also can't necessarily help how I am, so I have to just, like, accept it. Yeah. And so there are a lot of times where I feel like maybe I'm a little bit annoying to the guys, but then on a day like Monday, where I was not the way I normally am, they were all just like, what's the matter? What's wrong? Are you okay? you know, and they were all trying to get me to smile. They were all trying to get me to, like, kind of be back to my normal self.
Right.
And so that made me feel like, okay. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that's another thing too, is like, I think a lot of times, kind of circling this back around to, I guess, more of a relevant point, is that I think a lot of times women are really scared to, like, go in when it's only men.
Yeah.
And I don't want to discount that feeling, because yes, it is. It is very nerve-wracking. You're just like, oh my God, how are these guys going to treat me?
Yeah.
But I just want to say, like, that's part of, if, like, season 1, episode 2 is how to find a jiu-jitsu school.
Yeah.
Like, if you kind of vet out and interview these different schools, you can find the ones where they cultivate a culture that is welcoming, that they kind of stamp the ego out, you know, or they don't let the ego persist.
Right.
And they, like you were saying, like, they make people kind of adapt their training to different people. Like, they're not, like, just smashing people, like, you know, pulling whatever just because they can. Like, if you can find a school that's not doing all those crazy things, you can find a welcoming environment, you don't necessarily, like, you don't need to be so nervous. Right. Because they're going to treat you well. Right. You know, just like our school. Like, they treat us well. You know? I mean, and we treat them well in return. Like, I'm not going to be, like, I'm a brown belt now. I'm not going to be, like, pulling all my crazy moves on, like, a 1-stripe white belt. Yeah. When I'm trying to learn how to set spar. Like, it's... Yeah. But anyway, that's a different topic for another podcast. But... But just, like, the female experience. Right. You know, like you were mentioning, like, coming in and being welcomed by everybody.
Right, especially the guys and stuff and everything. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I have to say, from Gracie Barra, Downers Grove, and Naperville, all the guys have been very respectful, and they've been very welcoming. And even when you are teamed with them, or sometimes when you do set sparring and you are told to go pick a partner, honestly, like, it used to be intimidating for me to be like, okay, I'm a white belt and there's, like, a blue belt sitting there, and they're not going to make eye contact. But honestly, you make eye contact, you say hi, and you go work with them, and they're really good about it and stuff. And no one looks at you and says, oh my God, you're wasting my time, right? You know? And they're very helpful in teaching you. And I have to say, majority of guys, all of the guys actually, have been really good about that and stuff with the classes. So honestly, at least Gracie Barra, Downers Grove, and East Naperville has been like that. I can't say, honestly, for the other gyms. I haven't had experience, just to be on the fair side. Yeah. But I would definitely, if you are going to start, I would start here. You know?
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think I said this in my first episode when I was talking about, like, myself. Like, I've never trained anywhere else. Right. You know, but I feel really lucky that I kind of got it right on the first try. Yeah. You know? And so I know, like, the things that I appreciate about our school and our culture and our environment are the things I would recommend other people to find. Right. You know, because as much as we want Gracie Barra school in every town, like, that doesn't exist yet. So if you don't have Gracie Barra, I mean, obviously, because we're Gracie Barra members, so we would recommend Gracie Barra, of course. Right. But if you don't have one, then go back, listen to episode 2. Like, I tell you how to find a really good one. Like, how to tell if they're legit. Like, how to tell if they're going to treat you well. How to tell, you know, this kind of, all that stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And stuff. I remember listening to your podcast. I was laughing about the hygiene. Because you were like, at one point you were like...
I'm literally going to do a whole episode about that, Kulsoom. I know. I literally, you wouldn't think this has to be said, but it does.
No, you were like, at one point, just like, just trust me. Please take a shower. Like, yes! I can't believe you had to say that. I'm like,
I have to say that either, but you have to say it.
You were so dead on, like, straight face. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe she's saying that. I'm like, there's actually people out there who go train and don't shower. Like, how is this possible? But I was just laughing. But other than that, you were saying about when you go into a gym and you see, and you're sitting there in the silence, and then you actually join. Sometimes some of the gyms give you, like, a trial period or a week and stuff, and you come train. I think the biggest also motivating is how the girls obviously teach you, but treat you, but also the male, the one you train with, the one you work with, who are higher belts, or even just white belts. Because, you know, as a white belt myself, spazzy. So if you're working with another white belt who's a guy who's spazzy and he's stronger than you, there's a whole different level of strength and stuff. But all the guys that I worked with white belts and everything, very good. Like,
Yeah.
even though they're stronger than you and they know they can just come lay on you and that's the end of it and stuff, but they
Yeah.
don't, right? Because
Yeah.
they're trying to evolve too, and you're at the
Exactly.
same level, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and it really helps when, you know, you and your training partners are all sort of the same mind, and like you
Mindset,
guys
yeah.
have similar goals, because like
Right.
we're there to improve,
Right.
you know, and that's, again, like I'm going to talk about this in season 3 reflections, but it's just like that's the mindset, is like, how can you improve if I'm just there beating you up the whole time?
Right.
Because how is that, like, you are my training partner.
Right.
I want to cultivate your skills
Yeah.
so that you and I can
Yeah.
improve our skills together.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
it again, like, that's another episode. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me. But anyway.
Yeah. One thing I also have to say, like, Professor Carlos, usually at the end of class, he has a lot of stories and experiences that he shares. And one of the experiences he was telling is that he was, like, I guess, traveling. And I might have the story a bit wrong. But he was saying he was traveling and he was training with this one person. And this one person did the most simple move. And got him at the end, right? And everything. And so the whole idea of him sharing that story was to tell him that when you work with different people, you kind of end up either learning something new or going back to an old move that you didn't take, you know, really put focus on and stuff. And so I guess from that perspective, coming and working with white belts or high, like if you go with the higher belt, you know you're trying to learn new moves or trying to perfect a move. And sometimes you think, oh, I'm working with the lower belt, I know more than them. Like, if you come with that mindset. But sometimes working with the lower white belt or someone who's below than you, you end up practicing some move that they're learning, but it kind of helps improve, you know, the small kinks. Remember, like, how many times we worked on a move and you have to work on it 8 times, and by the end of it, you're tired of it? And I know in the women's classes, when we learn a new move, we drill it like 8 times, and you're like sitting like, why are we doing this? But sometimes Coach Nana and Coach Marissa will come and they're like, well, little tweaks makes a big difference. And I know you do that too.
It does.
And I'm like, yeah, actually, I didn't know that. Like, you should grab the collar like this. You should have your fingers all the way up. Like, little tweaks make a big difference. So
really
maybe you
does,
have
yeah.
the move down, but maybe you didn't have that little small thing. So I think,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and that's another episode coming in season 3 is basically talking about how everybody has something to offer.
Right.
No matter what belt rank they are, they all
Yeah.
have something to offer.
Right.
You know,
No.
I'm constantly learning from whoever I train with, everybody,
Right.
from white belts all the way up,
Right.
everyone.
Right.
Because here's the thing, though, like, kind of speaking on that, maybe I don't want to get too much into this, but like, they will help expose the holes in your game.
Yeah.
You know, holes maybe you didn't realize you had.
Yeah.
You know, so it's don't discount people just because they are a white belt. You know,
Right,
like
right.
they will still have something to offer you.
Right.
And you know, if you treat them as your training partners, they will develop into good training partners.
Right.
Like,
No, I honestly agree. Like, even last night I went to class, did double classes, and then after no-gi, someone came up to me and they're like, I saw you doing this, and I noticed you do this all the time, so let me help you. And they gave me some, you know, tips on what to
Yeah.
do. And honestly, after that, we were rolling and stuff, and I was practicing. I'm like, okay, it made a huge difference,
yeah,
right? You know?
because it's some, you know, and that's another thing too, is like being able to have people like see what you're doing as a third party instead
Right.
of being in the moment and not
Right.
really kind of realizing where opportunities are necessarily is really helpful too.
Right,
You know?
right. Not to criticize you, or not to put you down.
Yeah, no.
But,
I mean, we're not here to do that, yeah.
Yeah, or just even stay silent.
Yeah.
Like, they'll come up to you and they'll say, okay, I saw you doing this, let me help you.
Yeah.
Like, it's in that and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I have to say, the coaches and also sometimes the training partner that you're working with or someone who's just watching you will help you and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can, honestly, that's another thing. You can also go ask people. Sometimes when I'm working with someone and I know they're higher belt, I'll say, okay, this is what I did. What do you think? Do you think I'm doing it well and stuff? And most of the people that I work with, they're really nice about showing you, like, oh, you should work on this. I see you doing this. You can work on that. So it's nice, you know, to have
Yeah.
that back and forth.
Yeah, and I'll, if I know I'm working with a white belt who's really brand new and nervous,
Yeah.
I will tell them, okay, so when I do this move, I'll tell them, like, your feedback is really important.
Yeah.
I need to know if you feel the choke or if you just feel a
Yes.
neck crank. Because if
Yeah.
you feel a neck crank, that means I'm not doing it right.
Right, exactly.
You know, so I was like, yeah, I need you to tell me.
Yeah.
Where do you feel the pressure? Where do you not feel pressure? Like, what's,
Right.
you know, that kind of thing. And then they're like, I can kind of see in their mind, they're like, oh, okay. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
then I feel like they're a lot more engaged instead
Right.
of just like laying there like a piece of meat, you
Yeah.
know? Well, because that's another thing too, is like
Yeah.
beginners and like, because you know you're 2 years in, I'm 7 years in at this point, but
Yeah.
it's just like I feel like no matter how far in we get, we still remember what it's like in the beginning,
To be, right, exactly.
in like the first like couple, you know, month or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, and I feel like that's sort of how I carry with me when I interact with
For sure.
with any, you know, especially white belts.
Yeah.
It's like I remember what it was like,
Yeah.
and if I want these people to stick around,
Yeah.
which I do,
Yeah.
you know, I want to help cultivate their confidence and help
Right.
kind of show them the ropes and be
Right.
like, okay, so this is what's going to happen,
Right.
but also let them know it's okay to like tell me stuff. Like I was like, I
Right.
need your feedback. Like,
Right.
do you feel the choke or do you not really feel it?
Right.
And like I need you to tell me so I can make the proper adjustments.
Right, exactly.
You know,
That's
and I think that helps too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I should be doing that with every training partner.
Right, exactly.
You know, but like the ones with more experience just tell me anyway. Like they
Yeah.
don't wait for me to ask. They
Yeah.
just like, oh, well, when you did this, it was like this. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
thanks for telling me. Now I need to know. I need to adjust that.
Right.
You know, but in the beginning, you're too scared to say anything. Especially now, like now that I'm a brown belt, I feel like people kind of regard me differently. Like, which is, I guess, a double-edged sword. But like now I feel like if I work with white belts, I have to tell them, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this and I need you to tell me what it feels like.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise they don't want to tell me anything.
Right.
They're like, what can I tell you? I'm like, well, you can tell me how it felt. Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I agree, honestly. I was working with someone who was, like I said, she was a teen and stuff and everything. And sometimes it's kind of like, you can have your ego and you can be like, oh, how come you're putting me with a teenager? You know, I can take them down or I'm going to hurt them. But no, if your mindset comes in, like, you're trying to help them because you were in a position at some point in your life,
mm-hmm.
no matter where you started, you were there, and someone was able to help you
mm-hmm.
to the point where 7 years in, you're still coming,
yeah,
then you should be that person to them.
Exactly.
Stuff, you know?
exactly.
And so, and to help them and stuff. So when I was working with her, I told them, like, you have to tell me if I'm being too much. You have to tell me if you feel my jokes. I will tell you. So even to the point where she was like, I knew she was nervous, and I've been there, and you're trying to be this good training partner. Because there's
mm-hmm.
also this, like, pleasing aspect where you want to be a good partner for them,
Yeah.
so they don't get bored of you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I used to go through that a lot, and I can tell she was going, and I told her, I'm like, you don't need to be nervous. I'm not judging you. I'm trying to help you, and you can help me too. So
mm-hmm.
if I'm not doing it correctly, don't tap me if you don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me. Or if I'm going too strong on you, tell me. I will
Mm-hmm.
lower it. And vice versa. Like, if she wasn't doing the move correctly, I'm like, okay, let's stop. Do this. I remember you used to do that with me too. Like, okay, no, do this. Like,
mm-hmm.
it goes a long way for them to know the technique correctly too. Because, yeah, they're working with you, but eventually they're going to be working with someone else who
mm-hmm.
might not be as, you know,
mm-hmm.
patient with them and stuff. So you don't want to also kind of, like, you know, screw them over to the point where, like, well, I worked with her and she said it was fine. She tapped on the first try, and then I'm trying to do it with this person. This person won't even tap.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, I mean, you're kind of also being liable for that, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't
Yeah.
work with them correctly.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a responsibility at the same time
mm-hmm.
when you're working with someone who's lower or even higher and stuff to do it properly and correctly,
mm-hmm.
so they learn. So when they're working with someone else, they know they were working
Yeah.
correctly. You know?
Well, that goes back to the episode I did like a couple episodes ago. In real life, it's a couple episodes ago. In podcast life, it's going to be like last season. But anyway, basically talking about what a complete beginner can expect. And that's one of the things I mentioned is basically like, number one, beginners should always be paired with a higher belt than them, somebody with more experience,
mm-hmm.
because one of you needs to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
and then at the same time, it's like they should be helping you practice proper technique,
Right.
to build proper muscle memory, because
Right.
it's easier in the long run to learn it properly the first time
Yeah.
than learn sloppy technique in the beginning and have to unlearn it and learn the proper way later.
Right.
You know, it's much harder to do that.
Right.
So, yeah, but I mean, I also, like, I want you guys to be, you know, I want you guys to, like, be good. I want you guys to like jiu-jitsu because I want you to see it for what it can be.
Right.
You know, and it's hard to see that in the beginning because it's really overwhelming, like, all this kind of stuff. But it's, you know, and I think that's maybe, and maybe I'm just projecting here, but like maybe that's something that especially as women we struggle with in the beginning, is like it is really overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then also in such a well, I was gonna say intimate, but I guess it kind of can be sometimes, but like in such a sport like ours where we're like so close up in each other's business,
Right.
and then having a whole bunch of men telling us about, like, it's just really intimidating, especially for women who have histories of sexual assault.
Right.
Having a man that close up in your personal business trying to help, like, and it, you know, it's not the fault of the man or of the woman either, like it's nobody's fault, but it's just like with that kind of like past trauma, sometimes it's just nicer to have another woman
Right.
tell you about the techniques and teaching you and working with you on this kind of stuff until you can get more comfortable to the point where you're able to work with the men.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and because like there's a lot of like, anyway, I don't want to get into that right now, but basically, like, that's part of why I want to cultivate a positive environment and cultivate a community.
Right.
Like, in real life, I know we have our pink team in real life, but also, like, kind of online, so that people can at least feel that they're not alone, that it's possible to have this kind of community of women, and that there are women out there who train and who are here to lift them up.
Right, exactly.
You know?
No, I honestly agree and stuff, because I started with only doing the Thursday woman classes and stuff, and like you said, it was very, like, intimidating. I only want to work with females and stuff, just because, if I work with a guy and we do these kind of moves, I'm, you know, being so close, and I don't know what their intent is and stuff. But honestly, it came to the point where, like, I started doing only the Thursday classes, and then I started taking the other classes, and you did work with the guys, but you realize when you're rolling with them, especially from Jiu Jitsu point, you're not thinking of, be like, oh God, this guy looks really good. No, you're both sweaty. It stinks. No one's thinking about it.
Nobody's thinking about that.
He's thinking about what move he can do. You're thinking about what move you can do. At the end of class, you all shake hands. Everyone says bye, and it's It's honest. It's a respectable environment.
It is very respectful.
You know, it's nothing like, no one's looking at each other and saying, wow, look at that girl's hair. Her hair is like all wet and sweaty. And, like, no one's thinking about that. Like, there's nothing attractive going on the mat. Yeah. No one looks good. Everyone's sweaty. Everyone's just, honestly, you think, like, you always think, like, bad intent, like, I wonder what that guy is thinking, but no one is, because
that guy's thinking about the next jiu-jitsu
he
wants to do.
Exactly.
That guy's thinking about how best to choke you out.
Right,
like, that's what he's thinking about.
He's trying to submit you, and you should be thinking the same.
That guy's thinking about how to get mount from side control. Like, that's what he's thinking about.
I mean, every time I'm done, I'm like, oh God, I got submitted. So I'm thinking, what should I have done? Yeah. And that person 10 to 1 is probably thinking the same thing.
He's thinking the exact same thing. That's exactly what those guys are thinking.
Right. Or, like, they're going home and they're like looking at YouTube videos for the next thing.
Exactly.
It's just like the mind and honestly shifts. Like, whatever, when you come to the mat and stuff and everything, whatever you were thinking of before, it literally goes out the window, and the only thing you're left leaving the class is like, okay, we worked on this. Honestly, when I'm done with class, I'm thinking about all the moves we did, the techniques, and what I have to work on. And I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure the guys are thinking the same thing. They're not thinking like, oh, that girl with the white pants on and the black rash guard, look how she looked. Like, no one's thinking about it.
Nobody's, because we all wear the same uniform. We all look the same. We're all dressed the same way.
And we all smell the same.
And we all smell the same, which is why you should wash your stuff and take a shower.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
No.
So, Kulsoom, this has been an absolutely amazing cover. I've had so much fun. I could literally talk to you for like 3 more hours.
Yeah.
But that would be like a 5-part podcast. So, are there any sort of like final thoughts that you want to leave for the women, or anything that you want to just kind of like wrap up about like your personal journey with jiu-jitsu?
Honestly, I would say if you're thinking about it, and even if you're contemplating, even if you're just curious and you come in for like any training gym and stuff, I would obviously recommend Gracie Barra, just to come try it. Just to come see it. Try with the first step. Come sit on the side of the class, watch it. Then if you want to take a bit longer to join, take a bit longer, but eventually try it. See it. Try one of the classes. Honestly, this is how I started. I honestly was not going to join. It was just more like, what is this? Okay, I'm looking at it. Okay, I'll think about it. Then like a couple of weeks later, I join kickboxing. I'm doing kickboxing. Then I come to one of the classes. It literally was like a gradual step, and eventually it's to the point where like I don't want to say addicted, like in a bad way, but it was addictive,
Yeah.
right? Like you started with
Yeah.
one, and then you're like taking back-to-back classes, and then your whole life is being scheduled around. And it's not a bad thing per se. It's been
Well, it's fun. It gives you the
fun.
it's dopamine.
Exactly.
You want to keep doing more of it because you enjoy it.
Right, exactly, and stuff and everything. And so no matter what phase of your life, mom, single, working, stress, whatever's going on and stuff, it helps in so many ways and stuff. I would honestly encourage it, and it fosters a lot of like female relationships. I have to say and stuff. You know what I mean? I have to say I haven't had that many female friends and stuff other than jiu-jitsu. It's more like school and other stuff and everything, but I guess I would call this a fun relationship.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. But so I'm always telling people you should come join. Be curious. Even if you're curious, come watch a class, try a class, and then see where it goes, you know?
Yeah. Who knows where it can take you?
Exactly. So that would be my final thoughts.
Yay. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to connect with me while you wait for the next podcast episode, find me on Instagram at Jujiteras Podcast and at Jujitera. I'm also on Facebook at Jujiteras Podcast. You could also email me at jujiteraspodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to support me in this podcast, you can visit me on Patreon at Jujiteras Podcast, where you get early ad-free access to all episodes, plus some bonus content. You could also find me on buymeacoffee.com at jujiteraspod. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to rate and review. See you next time.